Forget the grand tales of kings and knights in shining armor. Tonight, we descend the cold, winding stairs of a medieval keep to walk the battlements with someone far more essential, yet often overlooked, the castle guard. So, before you get comfortable and settle in for the watch, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy the stories we share here. And let us know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is in your part of the world. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us for these journeys into the past. Now, let's begin. You clock in long before any clock exists. The sun has the decency to stay hidden, but the rooster doesn't. It screams like a drunk minstrel, and somewhere below the battlements, Alf the baker is cursing his dough into existence. You, meanwhile, strap on a helmet that smells of last week's rain and yesterday's onions. The gatehouse torch sputters, throwing orange bruises on stone. Another quiet night, remarks Sir Brand, your captain, a man with the optimism of a mayfly and the wrinkles of a 900-year-old saint. He hands you the watch rotor: stand, stare, freeze, repeat. Somewhere in the keep, a bell clanks 3 times, not polished chimes, but the harsh sound of iron on iron, like 2 saucepans fighting. That's the signal. The castle is awake, which means you won't be for much longer. Your post is the northern wall walk, the windy one. To the west lies the forest, and to the east, a moat filled with water that tastes suspiciously like last month's laundry. You settle beside Hugo, junior guard and professional worrier. Hugo Tuesdale Ryan asks, "Think the raiders'll come tonight?" You shake your head. Rain's too cold even for raiders. As if summoned, a drop slides off your nasal ridge guard. You can almost hear the gods laughing. Far below, kitchen smoke crawls from a vent, curling like a lazy ghost. In that smoke, you imagine supper: pork, barley, something that hasn't been salted since the last king died, but smoke is all you're getting till dawn. The wind changes, and you catch voices from the courtyard. Stable boys gossip louder than trumpets, the baron's daughter plans to sneak a lover up the postern ladder, the chaplain drinks sacramental wine straight from the cask, a fortune teller in the village swears the moon will bleed tonight. Hugo shivers. Moon bleeding means siege. You grin. Moon bleeding means a bored fortune teller. Still, the sky does feel heavy, low clouds, fat with something more than rain. You knock stiff knuckles against the wooden shield hung at your side, a gesture half superstitious, half arthritis. Footsteps. Captain Brand returns, his cloak snapping like laundry on a storm line. He eyes your stance, your spear, your boots. "Try looking less bored," he comments. You widen your eyes theatrically. Hugo snorts. Brand pretends not to smile. He points at the distant tree line where crows lift in ragged silhouette. A signal fire there means trouble. If you see orange, you ring bronze. He slaps the alarm bell, the one big enough to wake saints and skeletons, then vanishes back into drafts and paperwork. You and Hugo exchange nods: keep eyes open, keep bell ready, keep sarcasm sharp. Hours pass, measured only by the cold creeping up your spine. You recite the castle guard's unofficial mantra: if you're warm, you're dreaming; if you're dry, you're indoors; if you're happy, you've been replaced. Hugo hums a tavern tune about a maiden and a millstone. Every medieval song involves either unrequited love or agricultural equipment. Below, dogs bark at shadows. Above, the clouds finally rip, and sleet knifes across the parapet. You raise your shield like an umbrella, which works about as well as praying for drought. The stone underfoot becomes slick, your patience slicker. The portcullis rattles. A lone rider, wrapped in sodden wool, calls for entry, claiming to bear letters from the king. Protocol says, challenge, delay, verify. Reality says, bring the poor fool inside before he freezes into statuary. You relay the message down to the gate sergeant. Chains groan, the wooden drawbar shudders. Hugo whispers, bet it's another tax decree. You wager a week's ale ration it's a love letter to the Baron's wife. The rider disappears beneath the arch, and the portcullis slams shut like a judge's gavel. Whatever news he carries now belongs to the keep, and it will trickle to the wall walk before sunrise, guaranteed. To stay awake, you and Hugo invent challenges. First, you count how many lanterns in the bailey survive the wind. 5 minutes in, 2 flicker out, you win by guessing 3. Next, you try to identify courtyard figures by silhouette. A black cloak, thin, that must be Steward Mirek. A wide stance and helmet plume identify Sir Aldred. And the tiny, bustling figure with a broom in hand? That's cook's apprentice, fleeing kitchen smoke. Correct guesses earn imaginary crowns, wrong ones cost you dignity and an extra turn on tomorrow's dawn patrol. Hugo guesses a fat torchbearer. It turns out to be the Baron himself, laird in furs. You cackle until Hugo elbows you quiet. Just past midnight, a hiss rides the wind. An arrow? No, a reed whistle. Still, your gut clenches. You scan the tree line, seeing nothing but skeletal branches clawing at the cloud. Then, a light pulses deep in the forest black, like a lantern wink. Once, twice, thrice. You grip the bell rope, but wait, it could be poachers, a hermit, or your imagination forging enemies out of boredom. You count to 30, the light stops. Hugo didn't see it. Your heart keeps drumming anyway. The castle stones suddenly feel thinner, like parchment walls against the dark. To calm your nerves, you trade tales. Hugo shares one about a bridge troll who collects teeth to buy passage into heaven. You counter with the legend of Sir Rowan, a knight who never slept, hence the sleepless night, wandering ramparts forever, watching over fools like you. At that, Hugo eyes you sideways. Think he's up here tonight? You shrug. If he is, he owes me a wool cloak. The sleet eases, leaving the air sharp as fresh-honed iron. Somewhere below, the great hall door creaks, and a slice of firelight spills across cobbles. Midnight stew for the gate crew, envy stabs you harder than any enemy pike. A clang erupts, not the alarm bell, but the smithy's anvil. The night smith tests a reshod horseshoe, sparks leaping like frantic fireflies. You and Hugo nearly jump over the battlement. Laughing, you call down that he owes the guard 2 heartbeats and a new pair of nerves. He waves a soot-black hand in apology. The scare, however, serves its purpose. Your blood runs warmer, your senses sharpen. The rest of the shift stretches out, a tapestry of small sounds, colder stars, and the promise that dawn, dull and pewter-grey, will eventually pry the sky open. Until then, the castle sleeps because you don't. Smoke from the smithy's flare curls past your nostrils, carrying a faint parchment scent. Someone is burning candle stubs in the records room again. A page appears at the stair-top, clutching a wax-sealed scroll. His boots slap the stone like a child's heartbeat. Orders from the Baron, he pants. You break the seal with numb fingers. The message reads, increase watch on northern wall. Rider brought unsettling tidings of raids 2 valleys over. There's a postscript in hurried ink, confidential, remain calm. You sigh. Calm is the castle's most fragile commodity. You tuck the scroll inside your gambeson, where sweat will blur the ink by dawn, and you tell Hugo nothing. His nerves are as brittle as fresh ice. Clouds part just enough for a crescent moon to blade across the sky. The white slice glints off the keep's slate roof and paints old Stone Mary, the weather-smoothed gargoyle, in silver. You always greet her when the moon's high. Superstition says she guards against sleeplessness. Irony says she watches you fail at it nightly. Tonight you whisper, if raiders do come, please trip them with your tail. Mary stares with her empty eyes. Down in the kitchens, the night cook strikes a pan, summoning scullions. The clang echoes up the spiral stair and out across the curtain wall, turning the moonlit silence into a brief, tinny concert. Hugo starts nodding. His helmet tips, rebounds off the Merlin, and jerks him awake. Saw something, he mutters. You raise an eyebrow. Eyes closed visions don't count. He insists it was a dream of arrows falling like locusts, but every shaft planted a flower where it struck. Pink petals, he says, and the raiders just melted. You consider whether his mother mixed too many poppy seeds into last week's rye loaf. Still, you add one more worry to the list. If visions visit the wall, omermongers will be insufferable by sunrise. You clap Hugo's shoulder and order a brisk march up and down the wall walk to shake the dream loose. At the southern parapet, you pass Master Phelan, the armorer, oiling hinges on an iron chest, an odd hour for maintenance. He beckons you close, his eyes darting like mice. If steel must sing tonight, he advises, tell your men to aim for fur cloaks. Raiders wear wolf pelts to mark rank. Cut the pelt, cut the chief. You ask who told him. He taps his ear. Iron listens. Then he vanishes down the ladder, leaving an echo of chain links. You carry the cryptic advice back to Hugo. He shrugs. I'll stab whatever tries to stab me, wolf couture or not. Practical lad. Captain Brand holds a surprise drill, 30 heartbeats of perfect stillness. If you can't hear the moat ripple, you're breathing too loud, he instructs. Guards line the rampart, statues in kettle helmets. The wind backs off, sleet hushes, and even the dogs below sense the spell. In that hush, you catch it, a low scrape, distant but deliberate, metal on bark. Brand's eyes widen, he heard it too. The spell breaks. He gestures for you to shadow him to the bell tower, his hand hovering over the rope. But the sound fades, swallowed by the black forest. After a tense minute, he releases a breath. False start, he murmurs, yet leaves the bell clapper unlatched. Dawn is hours off, yet the scriptorium windows glow. Curious, you descend for a quick warm-up under the pretext of checking perimeter. Inside, Brother Caldas copies chronicles by rushlight, his quill scratching like insect legs. He offers mulled wine, monastic kindness, or a bribe for gossip. You accept, feeling heat crawl back into your fingers. Caldas reveals his transcribing the siege of Bracken Ford, where 10 men held walls against 200 wolves. History repeats under new banners, he sighs, his eyes on your chilled mail. You finish the cup, thank him, and return to the rampart carrying both warmth and unwelcome parallels. Regulations forbid open flames on timber hoardings, yet Brand authorizes a small brazier, shielded by stone, to stop guards from freezing stiff. Sparks spin upward, vanishing into the night like wishes too shy for daylight. Around the glow, you, Hugo, and old Sergeant Hask share dried figs, loot from the pantry for morale. Haas tells of his first raid, when he mistook a charging boar for an armored knight and nearly surrendered. Laughter rises, tangling with smoke, and for 10 blessed minutes, the castle feels less like a tomb and more like a rowdy inn roofed by stars. The laughter crumbles when you hear clacks on the ladder behind you, footsteps that end before a head appears. Torch held high, you peer over the parapet. Nobody. Hask's face hardens. Her again. He claims a ghost patrols unfinished shifts. According to legend, a woman disguised as a man served watch until her ruse was exposed. She leapt rather than face the gallows. Now she climbs invisible ladders. Skepticism is your favorite armor, yet the wood is rocking subtly. You shout down, but there's no reply, only wind. Hugo whispers, maybe she plants flower arrows. You wish the joke felt lighter. The weather turns, as though the sky has used up its cruelty quota. Clouds shred, revealing constellations bright enough to silver the moat. Relief spreads along the wall, guards straighten, spirits lift. With starlight, you can finally see beyond the kill zone, the tree line, fields, and the distant rise of the King's Road. Hugo points at a glint on the horizon. Salt wagons heading to market, he guesses. You study the slow lantern bob and concur. Peaceful commerce is the best omen. Raiders seldom attack when profit caravans roam nearby, as there are too many witnesses and too much militia escort. Brand notes the same and relaxes his shoulders from ear height to merely anxious. You run a mental tally, 9 torches lit, 7 guards alert, 3 suspicious noises, 0 confirmed threats. Acceptable odds. Still, you rehearse the bell sequence, 3 short for scouts, 1 long for full assault. You test the rope's fray and twist it smoother. Below, the baker's ovens relight for pre-dawn kneading, their warmth a promise you can nearly smell. Dawn will bring horns, the gate lifting, and relief troops. Till then, you and Hugo resume pacing. He hums the millstone song again, but slower, like a lullaby for the stones themselves. Somewhere behind, old Stone Mary smiles her weathered, secret smile. An hour before dawn, a faint horn echoes across the valley, 2 mournful notes swallowed by distance. Brand appears almost instantly, his eyes as bright as a struck flint. Merchant convoy signal, he murmurs, but you count the half-beats between blasts, too slow for traders, too steady for hunters. Brand snaps for a messenger, wake the war drummer. 1 reply only. The drummer thumps a low tremor that vibrates the battlements. Silence follows. Hugo licks his cracked lips. If the horn calls again, it's trouble, he observes. Minutes stretch. Nothing. Brand grudgingly stands down, but he keeps his helmet on, chin strap cinched so tight it dimples his beard. At last, day smudges black into dove grey. Courtyard cooks kindle braziers, and sweet barley steam rides the updraft. You and Hugo watch the sunrise paint the forest tips amber. Made it, Hugo sighs, like a sailor glimpsing shore. The relief shift clanks up the ladder, bleary-eyed youths whose enthusiasm is inversely proportional to their experience. Before handing over, you brief the new lads on wolf-pelt raider rumors and odd horn patterns. They nod with the grave importance of novices copying a master's stance. You and Hugo descend toward the buttery, knees aching, shoulders stamped with the cold. Dawn bells toll, thin but triumphant. In the buttery, oatmeal gurgles in cauldrons the size of baptisteries. Guards jostle for ladles, slapping backs with gauntlets still rimed in frost. You claim a wooden trencher of oats and drizzle it with honey, a rare treat from last season's tithe. At a corner table sits Scribe Aluin, nibbling bread and listening like an owl behind spectacles. He invites you over, eager for fresh gossip. You give him the edited version, horns, rider, rumors, while he scratches shorthand on a wax tablet. Chroniclers love patterns, he mutters, and fear loves them more. You focus on spoonful, not omens. After chow, you shed your mail in the barracks. The iron's clatter sounds indecently loud in the hush of men collapsing into bunks. You intend to sleep, but Captain Brand summons you to his table. Spread before him are a rough map and red chalk excess on northern hamlets. I trust your eyes, he states, and you're a light enough sleeper to serve swing shift. Translation, no long rest yet. He assigns you the second watch mid-afternoon to escort a scouting party beyond the tree line. You agree, duty over comfort, though your bones file a complaint to be reviewed by whichever saint handles fatigue. You manage an hour on straw, your dreams thick and sticky, arrows blossoming into pink flowers just like Hugo's vision, but the petals turn to parchment inscribed with taxes, smothering you. You wake choking on air. Sunlight blades through shutter cracks, warming nothing. Trumpets outside announce stable muster. You splash your face with water so cold it might still be ice in denial. Helmet on again, feet protesting, heart grudgingly loyal. The scouting party, for guards, one hunter, and one skinny priest, rides out the postern. You walk, your spear serving more as a walking staff than a weapon. The forest swallows castle noise, only saddle leather creaks, and the priest's quiet prayers thread the air. Hunter Rowena kneels often, reading tracks like letters, deer, boar, rabbit, but no boot prints fresher than yesterday's rain. She frowns anyway. Wolves silent, she notes. When predators hush, bigger teeth roam. Her hand drifts to the hatchet at her belt. You grip your spear tighter, suddenly missing the stone walls you cursed 6 hours ago. Half a league north, you find a toppled salt wagon. There are no bodies and no oxen, just wheel ruts veering into the woods and vanishing. Barrels are split, their crystals spilling like frosted sand. Rowena scans the treetop shadows. The priest whispers a blessing over nothing in particular. Sergeant Hask orders you to set barrel staves upright as a makeshift perimeter while he inspects. Arrow shafts stick in the cart side. The fletching, black raven feathers tied with red twine, marks raider clans from the fog mire, 2 valleys over. Confirmation tastes coppery on your tongue. Hask breaks 3 arrows. Evidence for the Baron, warning for us, he says, pocketing the heads. You trace broken undergrowth toward a brook. Water runs thin over mud, but there you see them, deep indentations, boots with iron studs. Multiple pairs, heading castle-ward. Worse still, the prints are fresh, their edges still crumbling. Rowena tests their depth. Heavy loads, she judges. Maybe ladders. A chill spears through your ribs despite the afternoon warmth. Hask signals silent withdrawal. No trumpets. You move back through the brush, every snap of a twig a drumbeat. At the forest edge, you spot the castle towers, sun-gilded and distant, suddenly as fragile as sandcastles against the tide. The sergeant orders a double-paced jog, mounts are pressed to a canter. The sun droops, bleeding gold. Dust rises behind you. From the wall walk, sentries spot your party and ring a half alert. The gates squeal open. Inside, Brand meets you mid-bailey. Your news spills out, the salt wagon, raider arrows, boot tracks inbound. Brand's jaw sets. We train for storms, now it rains. He dispatches runners to the armory, kitchens, and chapel. The bells shift from a pleasant vesper tone to a terse war rhythm, the townsfolk will know the difference. You glimpse Hugo on the rampart, hefting a fresh quiver, his face pale but stubborn. The evening suddenly smells of iron and pitch. By sunset, the castle bristles, archers line the merlons, cauldrons of sand, for snuffing flame arrows, perch on parapets, the gatehouse murder holes are stocked with extra stones. You stand on the northern wall again, a full circle from last night, yet the world feels older. Hugo sidles up and offers a dried apple. He says nothing, friendship needs no words when fear already talks too loud. Torches ignite along the wall, but Brand orders most extinguished, it's better to see the dark than to be seen. As twilight cools to indigo, you recall Brother Caldus's chronicle, 10 men against 200 wolves. You count 27 fellow guards and hope the math works differently this time. Full night drops like a curtain, no star break, only ink. You sniff the air and catch pine pitch. Someone, somewhere, is lighting a torch where no torch should be. Hugo sees it too, a prickle of orange between trunks beyond the moat. One flame becomes 3, then 5, moving in a ragged crescent. Captain Brand raises an arm. Wall archers notch their arrows but hold. Silence deepens until you hear the distant crack of a branch underfoot. Then, a single arrow arcs from the forest, trailing Emberwall, and dies hissing in the moat. Brand exhales through his teeth. They're testing distance. He motions, your fingers tighten on the bell rope, but still, you don't ring. Patience is armor, he always says. Tonight, it must be chainmail thick. A second shaft thunks into a merlin stone, this one bearing rolled parchment tied with twine. The message clatters to the ground near your feet, its wax seal pressed with a wolf pelt emblem. Brand breaks it and reads aloud, surrender salt, grain, and 12 hostages by dawnlight, or the walls burn. Brand snorts, rips the parchment, and lets the pieces blow into the dark. Their diplomacy lacks charm. He orders Fletchers to prepare flights of warning arrows, not to kill, but to answer. Hugo and you assist. 30 shafts dipped in lime wash for visibility are loosed high, so their white feathers glow like ghosts above the pine line. They fall short purposely, drumming the earth before the raiders. The forest replies with growls and rattled shields. Dialogue is finished. The next words will be iron. The tempo stalls. Raiders withdraw to the tree shadow, only owls testify to their existence. Brand rotates fresh eyes onto the wall, but you refuse relief. Fatigue gnaws, yet fear sharpens your pupils brighter than torchfire. You recall Rowena's track judgment, ladders. You scan the moat bank and spot carved stakes newly driven into the mud, anchors for crossing planks. Under the moonless sky, they're invisible save for short glints of wet wood. You point them out to Brand. He nods and dispatches 2 crossbowmen to fix quarrels on the stakes. If raiders lift the planks, barbs will greet their palms. Small victories are the mortar for courage. Hourglass grains slip. Sometime after midnight, the siege truly starts. A whistle pierces the dark. 20 flaming arrows streak skyward, their arcs converging on the parapet like a meteor shower. You and Hugo overturn sand cauldrons onto the stone. The grains hit with a hissing roar, smothering the fire before pitch can cling. One shaft embeds in a shield rack, sparks spitting. You pile wet cloaks on it to smother the flames. Brand paces the line shouting, hold sand ready, stone does not burn, but fools do. The flaming drizzle ceases as quickly as it came. Test number 2 passed. The forest grumbles, torch dots regroup farther out. They plot, you breathe through the smoke-tanged night, your heart counting faster than bells. A horn balls low, shadows surge from the pines. Raiders carry rough-hewn ladders, their pelts flapping at their shoulders. The moon finally rips through the clouds, silvering the iron studs in their boots. Archers loose their arrows. The singing twang of 50 bowstrings becomes a single chord. Many raiders fall, others plunge ladders into the moat edge, searching for purchase. Water churns, reflecting sparks of torchlight. You and Hugo brace at the wall lip, spears angled down. The first ladder thumps against stone, its wooden teeth seeking a crenel. You stab downward, your point strikes a furred shoulder. The raider yelps and splashes into the black water. Hugo shoves the ladder free, it topples, knocking 2 more attackers into the moat. But more come, relentless, like waves shaped of flesh. Amid the chaos, a distinct figure strides forward, a towering raider clad head to heel in grey pelt, his helm adorned with a snarling wolf skull. He carries no ladder, instead, he lifts a horn and blasts 3 guttural notes. At that cue, Hidden sappers ignite bundles at the moat's downslope. Dry reeds flare, momentarily searing the night as bright as dawn. Smoke blinds the archers, ladders are planted unchecked. The wolf chief roars words you don't know but understand. Forward. Bran curses and orders the gatehouse stones dropped. Huge boulders release from the machicolations, crushing 2 ladders and scattering men. Yet the wolf chief keeps striding, seeming carved from mountain anger. Your spear suddenly feels as thin as a quill. Hask rallies reserve spearmen to meet the first raiders breaching the parapet. The clash of steel is like thunder under the moon. You pivot to flank, driving your oak shaft into a gap in a raider's mail. He gasps and slumps. Hugo blocks an axe aimed at your skull. The axe bites his shield edge, sending splinters flying. Together, you shove the attacker over the wall into the moat. The air smells of pine tar, wet fur, and blood iron. Yet training holds, every guard steps to cover another. Archers switch to bodkin arrows for closer range, and oil lamps are doused to deny targets. Somewhere a priest chants a litany, his voice cutting through the battle noise like a distant bell. Ladders burn where pitch drips from toppled torches, the flames painting the underside of the clouds crimson. The wolf chief's horn calls once more. From the darkness appears a siege ram, the log hung by chains, crewed by 8 men in pelts. They aim not at the main gate but at a salaport you thought secret. Captain Brand yells down for the gate crew to brace, but the distance is short. You sprint across the wall walk, seize the bell rope, and ring one long peal that shakes your marrow. The sound booms over the valley, startling birds from their night roosts. For a moment, even the raiders pause. Bells carry the memory of kings and graveyards. The castle interior erupts, militia pour from the barracks, cooks arrive with cleavers, and smiths wield tongs. The small world of stone awakens as one armored beast. Brand unveils his last resort plan, a hidden hoard of firepots, clay jugs filled with lamp oil and quicklime. He passes you a fuse reed. You and Hugo, followed by 2 bowmen, crawl to a murder hole above the salaport. Below, the raiders brace the ram, chanting. On Brand's signal, you tip the first jug. A bowman ignites its cloth tail midair. It shatters on the ram, oil erupting into blue fire. Lime dust blooms, a choking storm under helmets. Raiders scream and stumble. A second jug falls, then a third. The ram crew flees ablaze, plunging into the moat where the oil clings, floating flames dancing on the water. The wolf chief snarls and throws an axe upward. It strikes stone near your face, and chips shower down. But his assault falters, momentum bleeds away like smoke through arrow slits. The assault drags on for hours, yet the ladders thin and arrows wane. Near cockcrow, the clouds shift from ink to bruised violet. Raiders retreat to the tree line carrying their wounded. Their horn is now a mournful echo of its first threat. The wolf chief stands last, a defiant silhouette, then withdraws, his torch snuffed by his own hand. The gate stays closed, the wall scarred but standing. You lean against a merlin, legs like jelly, spear nicked, lungs tasting smoke. Hugo slumps beside you, his armor streaked with soot, his eyes wide with the shock of surviving. Bran tours the line, clasping shoulders, his voice hoarse yet steady. Stone holds. Night's wake. Keep watch, wolves lick their wounds, they may return. But as the sun rims the horizon gold, you allow one heartbeat of triumph, whispering thanks to old Stone Mary, to ghosts on ladders, and to the nameless sleepless night whose legend kept your eyes open through the darkest watch. First light reveals the damage hidden by torch smoke, arrow-pocked shutters, singed banners, and blood pooling in frost-hardened grooves. The courtyard becomes an open-air infirmary. Brother Caldas repurposes his quill to a scalpel, teasing splinters from Hask's calf. Kitchen girls rip linen sheets into bandages, and the baker donates dough troughs for warm water. You ferry buckets, passing Hugo, who mutters encouragement to every stretcher he lifts. Keep breathing, lad, dawn owes you breakfast. A single prisoner lies shackled near the well, young, his cheeks smudged with ash, a wolf pelt draped too large across his bony shoulders. He stares at the sky as if sunrise were a language he's only just learning. Captain Brand approaches the captive, flanked by Rowena and the skinny priest. Rowena speaks first, in a clipped dialect learned from border traders. The lad answers haltingly. The wolf chief calls himself Garrick of the Grey Howl and claims sanction from a distant warlord hungry for salt. Their clan believes castles fatten while villages starve. Plunder is justice. Brand listens, his jaw muscles twitching, then crouches so his helm's eyes meet the boy's. Justice without mercy breeds graves, he states. The priest offers bread, the captive devours it, tears mingling with crumbs. He confesses their camp lies 2 miles north, with supply wagons hidden in a bracken glade. Brand nods. Information, not cruelty, has pried the gate of his throat. In the great hall, smoke still clings like a guest overstaying a feast. Around the trestle table gather Brand, Rowena, Steward Myrick, and Lady Ellen, the Baron's daughter, her eyes blazing brighter than banners. A strategy forms: strike first, burn the raider stores, and scatter the clan before they can regroup. Rowena insists on speed, before sunset, else they'll dig in like ticks. Lady Ellen volunteers archers from her personal retinue, courtly huntresses skilled at silent release. Myrick calculates rations, grimacing at dwindling grain, yet approves the plan. Brand places a dagger on the map at the glade. Tonight, the wolves dine on fear. Afternoon clouds smother the sun as Rowena leads 5 scouts beyond the charred stakes. You accompany them, your spear swapped for a short sword better suited to the forest tangle. The air smells of moss and yesterday's fire. Twice you freeze as owls glide overhead, day hunters, spooked by the disturbance. Near dusk, Rowena signals a halt. Ahead, you hear low voices and the snap of kindling. Through a fern lattice, you spy crude tents, salt barrels stacked like ivory towers, and raiders mending ladders with fresh pine. Wolf Chief Garrick paces, his left arm bandaged where a quarrel grazed him. He shouts orders you can't parse, but urgency sours his tone. Rowena marks paths, counts sentries, and you slip back under the forest's damp breath. Castle gates open to a hush broken only by the clinking of bit chains. 30 guards, huntresses, and 2 monks carrying oil casks move like ink across parchment. Torches stay unlit. Instead, thin fireflies of fox-fat candles bob within horn lanterns, hooded tight. Above, clouds choke the moon, granting darkness its blessing. You walk beside Hugo. Exhaustion drapes him, yet resolve bolts his spine straight. Second night running, he whispers, but who sleeps while wolves prowl? Ahead, Rowena raises a clenched fist. The column halts on a ridge overlooking the glade, now noisy with raiders boasting, drinking, unaware that night itself sharpens blades behind them. 2 confiscated castle wagons, with white sheets draped over their frames, roll from the tree line like surrender flags. The raiders cheer, thinking tribute has arrived. As the wagons near the firelight, hidden panels drop, huntresses loose arrows, and oil casks tumble, shatter, and gush slickly through the camp. You and Hugo charge with the first wave, your boots sliding in the brine mud. Panic erupts, fire meets oil, and tents bloom into red flowers. Garrick roars, rallying a knot of veterans, but confusion slices their ranks thinner than steel. Salt barrels ignite with eerie blue tongues, the smoke tastes of burned sea. Garrick strides through flame, his great axe carving ember arcs. Brand meets him, sword and shield poised. A circle clears as the warriors lock in silent accord. Garrick's first swing shreds Brand's shield rim. Brand counters, hammering his pommel into the wolf skull helm. You fend off 2 raiders trying to aid their chief, steel rings, sparks spit. Hugo drags one down with a pummel blow to the temple. Brand and Garrick trade blows that echo like smithy anvils. Finally, Brand faints low, his sword tip flashes up, piercing a chain gap at Garrick's collar. The wolf chief staggers, growls once, a sound more beast than man, then falls to his knees amid burning salt, his axe slipping from a slack grip. The raiding line fractures, panic becomes a rout. Victory bares teeth as dangerous as defeat. Rivers of oil crawl beyond the camp, kissing dry brush, soon the whole glade crackles. Brand orders a retreat. You help haul the wounded, while monks fling wet cloaks over stray embers. Rowena dashes back to slice tether ropes, freeing stolen oxen that lumber away, bellowing. Flames sprint up pine trunks, turning the night into a pillar of red. The column staggers southward under an ember rain. At the ridge crest, you glance back. Garrick's banner, its wolf skull now faceless in the firelight, collapses as its mast chars. The clan, leaderless, scatters into the dark like sparks stripped of flame. Halfway home, thunder rumbles, the clouds finally weep. Steam billows where the raider camp once blazed, nature balancing its ledger. Castle gates greet you with lantern halos, civilians cheer, then hush upon seeing the stretchers. Rain slicks the stone as the fallen are carried to the chapel. Lady Ellen oversees triage, her sleeves crimson to the elbows. In the courtyard center, a pyre is built, but not for bodies, it's for broken ladders, blood-stained pelts, and the horn of the grey howl. The flames this time are ritual, not battle. Brand speaks, let ash be our memory, not our master. You stand beside Hugo, both of you trembling, partly from cold, partly from gratitude that your names aren't on tomorrow's roll of the dead. 2 nights later, repairs hum like bees, masons patch merlons, fletchers craft fresh arrows, and children sweep sand into sackcloth for reuse. The prisoner, now simply called Lark for the song he hums while helping, assists the blacksmith, earning cautious smiles. Peace, though fragile, settles like dust after a parade. And you? You resume your post on the northern wall. The sky unfurls like velvet, strewn with honest stars at last. Old Stone Mary catches the starlight, her grin softer somehow. Hugo leans on the parapet and offers a flask of spiced beer saved for this moment. Think we'll sleep tonight? He asks. You glance along the silent tree line, then upward where constellations march eternal. Maybe, you answer, but someone must keep first watch. And so you stand, helmet off, face to the cool wind, another sleepless night guarding the thin line between darkness and dawn, until stories rise again like the sun.